amazing viewers. Thank you so much for joining me on my program once again. I appreciate you wherever you are connecting from. If you have not subscribed to my channel, please kindly subscribe to my channel. Click the notification bell so that you'll be notified each time I upload a video. You will be among the first to receive it. Thank you so much and remain blessed.
Special advisor to President Mohammadu Buhari on media and publicity. Is a journalist with more than 27 years experience, print, digital, and other media. Our guest tonight is Mr. Femi Adeosun, and he joins us live in our Abuja studio. Mr. Adesina, thank you for joining us on Politics Today.
Thank you. Good evening.
Are you running for any office yourself?
Running to my house.
You're running to your house?
Yes.
Why? I mean, it's a free world. Why aren't you choosing to run?
Yes, I've chosen to run to my house after I finish serving.
So that's the running you're doing?
Yes, that's the running.
But you're a member of the APC, aren't you?
I work for an APC government. I have sympathy for APC. That's
so
what I was.
Are you a card-carrying member of the APC?
No.
Why aren't you a member of the APC?
I'm not a politician, actually.
Because we've seen other aides who have joined the party. In fact, they've picked forms and they're running for senatorial or House of Reps.
I'll tell you that APC is my preferred party. It's the party I like. If I didn't like the party, I wouldn't come to work for a government run by APC. APC is my preferred party, and any day the party has my best wishes. But am I a card-carrying member? No.
It's quite interesting that you're not a member of the APC, but it's good you've cleared the air because it looks like membership of a party is a big deal now. But let's talk about that circular, which was released, yesterday, and literally everyone was copied in that circular. It's not usual to see that much people copied. In fact, the National Population Commission was copied, the EFCC was copied, the ICPC, lots of agencies. And I'd just like you to give us a peek into the mind of the president. Why did that have to happen yesterday?
Well, there's nothing as good as an idea whose time has come. The time had come for that to happen, and it's happening. You can do things prematurely, you can do things too late, but you can do things at the right time. That was the right time for it to happen.
Right. So the question there will be, why didn't it come earlier? Why yesterday? Because this debate had been on. And I know you've said time and again that the president feels the pulse of the people. He knows, what the agitations are in public. For a lot of people, this should have come weeks ago. So why did it take that long?
No. When the time for something has come, that is the time. Things can be done prematurely. And if it's done prematurely, then it's not the right time. And then if it's also done too late, it's also not the right time. But it can be done at the right and proper time. And I believe this is the right and proper time for this to be done.
Okay, so let's maybe put this in better context and put our, viewers also in the loop. So these are the people affected, some of the people affected by that circular, which was signed by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa. And there you see that list: the Minister of Transportation, the Minister of Niger Delta Affairs, the Minister of Labor and Employment, the Minister of Science, Technology, the Minister of State for Education, who, by the way, incidentally, had resigned before that directive came on. So it will seem he's leading the pack in that light. Of course, we have the Minister of Justice and Attorney General, the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, the Minister of Mines and Steel, that's the Minister of State, and the Minister for Women Affairs. So those are some of the people affected. There are reports that some others may have resigned as well, like the Minister for Niger Delta Affairs. These reports are out there. Can you confirm that aside the Minister of State for Education, others have resigned?
Yes, I've seen those reports that Minister of Science, Technology and Innovations, Minister of Niger Delta, that they resigned. But I wouldn't know at this point because their letters of resignation will not come direct to the President. It will go to the Secretary to the Government of the Federation.
So as it stands from where you sit, only the Minister of State for Education has resigned? No,
I wouldn't say that. I would say it is the office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation that can give you an authentic information on who has resigned and who has not yet.
But help us understand the chain of command here. So it goes to the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, and then it lands on the President's table, am I right?
Yes.
And you have access to the president.
Oh, sure.
So
sure.
how come you don't know yet?
No, if the secretary to the government of the federation has not transmitted it to the president, how would I know?
So again, as it stands, at least from what you know, only the Minister of State for Education has resigned.
I didn't say that, and I wouldn't say that. The information that is in the public domain is that 3 ministers have resigned, and it's only the office of the SGF that can confirm or deny that.
You know, the president usually is someone that, I mean, we've seen that he values his team a lot. He seems to, protect his team members, his marshals, as it were. And I would like to know, before the president gave this directive, did he maybe have a meeting with his men and women saying, well, this is the direction we're going, okay, so when we make that announcement, I don't want you to be shocked. Did any of such happen?
A meeting is holding 10 a.m. tomorrow.
No, I'm saying before.
Everybody that is exiting the cabinet is meeting with the president 10 a.m. tomorrow. So that shows you that the president values his men and women.
No, I'm saying before.
If it's held before, it will be individual. It will not be group.
So a lot of them perhaps were not even aware that the president was going to give this directive.
Well, it's the prerogative of the president to do it.
I wonder, because this happened during FEC. And I mean, it was visible to the press, seeing the faces of the ministers, really. What was the atmosphere like when that announcement was made?
You see, FEC meeting had held, and we were closing. And that was when the president, now, addressed the gathering, that some were interested in running for positions. He was specific about the position of the president. He said those who had collected for to run for office of president, it was advisable that they tendered their resignation. And it was in good order for those who had purchased forms to run and for government. One, those who had signified their intention to run could concentrate on their ambition. If they stayed in government and they were running their ministries and then they were also running their political campaigns, there's distraction. They can't concentrate. So it was in their interest that the president said that. It was also in the interest of government in that government's work would not suffer.
So you're saying that the president also was fully aware of the implications of holding on to an office and seeking elective office at the same time, saying that there will be conflicts of interest, as it were.
Yes, naturally. And there's also the legal angle. That is not fully determined yet, but we know that there is the danger of everything being voided later if the APC was not careful, because there is the popular section 84(12)
yes,
of the Electoral Act. It's not fully determined now, but then what if the highest court in the land determines it and it runs against the party, then you lose everything. So it was safer to err on the side of caution.
I mean, since we don't even know which way it will swing, some say that 84(12) is still in the Electoral Act. Some say, well, it's been struck out. But, apparently they've taken it to the Supreme Court to be decided. But let's talk about this circular now that was released. So you said, is it an advice, a directive? Is it an order which must be carried out, or it's just an advice?
Well, the good book says that the king's word is powerful. When a king speaks, there's power in it. When a president speaks, it has the force of law behind it. So it doesn't, like there's a saying that a tiger does not proclaim his tigritude. A president doesn't have to come backing and shouting, he just needs to say it. And the force of law.
So the president is ready to bite on this one?
He doesn't need to bite. I'm sure nobody will wait to be beaten over this because it is law already. It has taken effect. But there was something the president said after that meeting when he made that pronouncement. He said anybody that needed to discuss with him on the issue, that needed further clarifications or that has issues to raise, could come see him.
And that's why we saw the CBN governor meeting with the president.
Maybe. Well, when the president spoke yesterday, the CBN governor was not in the category yet then. But you saw the Minister for Labor and Employment, who said he will consult with his constituents and he will consult with the president. The president left that window open.
So really, they maybe have a choice here. Because I'm looking at this circular now, and it says that Mr. President has observed and noted the expression of interest and intention by, those people concerned. Consequently, he has directed that the affected officers holding or holders aspiring to run should tender their resignation. So does it mean that all of these people who have picked their nomination forms and expression of interest forms, whether they like it or not, they have to resign? Or can they say, you know what, maybe I'm not pursuing this elective office again? Can they stay back?
Yes, we can't preempt the president. He left a window of consultation open. And when those affected utilize that window, whatever they discuss and agree to will become public knowledge.
So you're saying that there might still be some leeway for people who want to pull back and saying, I'm not running for office?
It's not unlikely, but I'm not saying it could happen. What I'm saying is that what the president said is not a decree. It's not a military decree.
Well, you said it's law.
Oh, yes, it's law. But it's not a military decree that is done with immediate effect.
Well, the circular,
you see that
actually,
he even gave a window. The
last paragraph says the contents of the circular and incidental directives takes effect immediately.
Yes, it begins to work immediately, but the terminal date is 16th May, which is Monday.
Incidentally, that day is when the result of the screening of the APC, primaries, the aspirants, that's when the result will come out. So imagine the results, let's paint a scenario. If the result comes out in the morning and maybe it doesn't favor some of the aspirants, can they then say, okay, let me go back to my home, or at least the home ground, and continue with the work?
Well, the president that can determine that. Is the president that can determine that. But I reckon that anybody who was serious to run in the first place and had paid, you don't throw away 100 million naira, do you?
But why did the president wait for them to dole out the 100 million before he said, you have to resign now?
No. There is a way you do things. There was that issue about what was the lawful thing. The Constitution says when you want to run for a public office, you quit whatever position you are holding 30 days
before the
election. And that is the subsisting thing. That's the extant thing for now. Until the court also determines what happens with Section 8412 of the Electoral Act.
But you also said that the president realized that there will be the conflict, and it's moral.
Yes, it is moral.
So, the law aside, yes, the morality was glaring. And the challenge now for a lot of people is, why wait for them to pay 100 million?
It's the proper thing to do, actually. But it is only when a man has paid that you know he's serious. It is only when he has paid that you know he's serious. There are some, if the form could be obtained without payment, a lot of people will obtain it. And at the end of the day, will say, oh, we didn't pay. So we were not actually serious.
So this was a master stroke from the president?
Oh, it is, but it's the right thing, it's the proper thing.
I think a lot of Nigerians maybe will better understand the personality of the president from some of the recent trends we have seen. But tell us, there's, concerns, or at least there's talk about maybe some ministers who are not happy with this. They feel, led on, and then at the tail end. In fact, there's a video online now that is sort of describing what may have happened. Some people getting into an arena and the door is shut and they can't leave again. So speak to that. Are all the ministers happy, or at least okay with this decision?
There is nothing like leading on in this, because it was voluntary. Nobody was coerced, nobody...
Well, they all met with the president, at least most of them, and they came out and said, well, the president
Don't be too sure. You said they all met with the president. Don't be too sure.
No, I said some of them. I changed it in some of them. But at least we saw them come out and say, well,
yes,
I've spoken with the president, I've informed him of my ambition, and he said, no problem. So that was some sort of approval from the president.
And that didn't apply to the ministers too much. Maybe the governors and some other people. Not how many ministers would you count that came out to say, I met with the president?
So they didn't seek the consent of the president?
They could have sought it. They could. I know some did. Not all of them did, but I know some did. But then the president, as the father of the nation, will wish you well. He won't say do, he won't say don't do. He'll just give you his best wishes.
Well, I know there also talks about the president anointing, perhaps, selecting one of his ministers, current ministers, as perhaps his candidates. Can you confirm that?
You recall the interview the president granted earlier this year?
That was earlier this year.
To your
Months
station.
have passed on since
Wait,
then.
let me finish. Granted it to your station. And he was asked whether he had a favorite to succeed him. He said, yes, he had someone, but I would not mention him. Because if he did, mischief could happen to that person. That shows you that the president himself is interested in the process, and he has a preferred candidate. But whether he will impose his preferred candidate is what you cannot determine at this point.
Quite an intriguing period, I must tell you. But there's also the question about what happens then if those ministers resign, for example. What happens in governance? And from what we've seen, the president's first term, it took him a while to actually appoint ministers. And there are fears that if this happens again, it might take a while to appoint ministers, or it will just leave it at the hands of maybe the permanent secretaries of Minister of State. Do you think there are plans to replace those ministers?
It will be the president's decision, but then you must realize that the Constitution requires that every state of the Federation produces a minister. So the president would not like to be in breach of the Constitution. Therefore, it's not unlikely that he will fill certain positions. But then there are ministries where you have ministers and you have ministers of state. It's not unlikely that the ministers of state will continue to run those ministries. It's not unlikely that he will juggle people around. But the president will not be in breach of the Constitution.
If he doesn't appoint ministers, or if he does appoint ministers?
Yes, because the Constitution says that each state must produce a minister. And he still has a year to go. I think it's still some bit of distance.
So we can expect ministers to replace
Not
them?
unlikely. I wouldn't say definitively, but it's not unlikely.
Okay, so this has thrown up a lot of issues. I mean, the central bank governor's example is also another. It's still a bit contentious. But seeing the response he gave journalists at just right after his meeting, let me just see if I can take that quote one more time, talking about what the governor of the central bank, I see you already smiling to that one. And this is what he's quoted to have said after he met with the president, saying, there is no news, but there will be news. He went on to say that let them have heart attack, because he was asked about, this causing anxiety. It is good to have heart attack. I am having a lot of fun. And I wonder, is the president worried about the kind of image that is casting on his government? To talk about whether or not the central bank governor is going to run for president, civil society is coming up, the opposition also saying this is not right. Is the president aware of that?
No. It will be within the right of anybody to aspire for any position, but then do it legitimately, do it decently, do it orderly. Irrespective of the position you hold, if you want to run, then quit. And quit at the proper time. So that's what my...
Thank you so much for your patience to watch from the beginning to the end. I hope you have learned something from the video you have just watched. The video you have just watched is to bring information to your doorstep and for educational purpose. It is not to demonize anybody. Let us watch continuously and see who can be able to make a sense out of every nonsense we are seeing. We must continue. We move. It doesn't matter what they do. It doesn't matter what they say. They will kill us. We will kill them. At the end of the day, Biafra is here. Thank you for watching. If you have not subscribed to the channel, please kindly subscribe to the channel. Click the notification bell so that you're notified each time I upload a video. You will be among the first to receive it. Thank you and remain blessed. Bye-bye. See you again.